Hey everybody, welcome back. So now that the Cadillac and Swamp Cooler and all the other stuff I've been doing is done, I really feel like I'm staring down 115 degree temperatures. And yes, that's 115 degrees Fahrenheit. But for those of you who have no internet or whose Google is broken, that's about 46°C. There's a couple things I need to do before it's too hot for me to want to be out here. And the two things on this Jeep, I need to get the power steering pump resealed. I don't know if you can see it down under there, but this thing's puking out power steering fluid as fast as I can pour it in. So this thing is puking oil out. It's not coming out of the lines. It's probably coming out of the seals between the reservoir and the pump, or out of the front pump seal. Doesn't really matter. If I pull it apart, I'm replacing all of them anyway. Yes, I could buy a reman pump. My experience with reman stuff anymore is so bad that I would rather take the time to throw the seals in it. I've also bought new lines for it. I'm going to go ahead and yank this out. Like I say, they're not hard to get out. And we'll take it to the bench and we'll let it drip and then we'll reseal it. So one thing worthy of note here is while the pump itself is really pretty easy to get out, the lines are something else entirely, and I do need to replace the lines. I don't want to do it, but I'm gonna do it, and you can see they run up through here, and then of course they attach to the top of the power steering box. But it's pretty obvious to me there are two ways to go about it. One is to pull the entire front grille and radiator and everything out, and the other way to do it might be, and I've never replaced the lines before, or if I have, I don't remember. And the other way is to pull all this out and see if I can drop the power steering gearbox itself down far enough to get to them from the top. And you can kind of sort of see them right up in there, I think. Is that where one of them connects? I can't tell. But yeah, they're right up in there. I really don't want to pull that entire front clip off, so I think I'm going to see if I can't get the power steering itself to drop down far enough to let me get to those. So I'm going to pull a bunch of these bolts out and see if I can get clearance. Okay, let me see if I can show you here. See if I can get the camera up in there, and I can't really tell. Ouch! Because I just whacked my head. One of those lines goes in right there. I don't know if you can see it. So I can see if a person had the exact right tools and some perseverance, you might be able to get these out without pulling anything. But I gotta tell you, I don't know that I have the patience for it. Okay, I have dropped the pump down, and now we can easily see the two hoses. So I'm gonna get those out, compare it with the new ones, make sure they're right. I also had to drop the sway bar down. Let's take a look at our lines and see if they look right. This one here, without steel on one end, with steel only on one end, that is the return line, and that would be this one. And only one end obviously has to be correct, and so we're looking from there to there and from there to there, and I would say that does look correct. God knows how many times that thing's been bent around, but that does look correct. This end just fits on a nipple on the back of the pump. And then the pressure line is this one here, and this is that end there, and I have to say that does look correct. And then this end here is this one, and that does not look correct. It doesn't look anything like it, and that sucks. Wonder what's going on there. Okay, I am ready to start rebuilding this pump. Couple of things worthy of note before I begin, I think. This new hose that I said was the wrong one, because the end going down to the gearbox, steering gearbox, is fine, but the end that connects to the pump is completely different. And I thought that meant it was the wrong hose, but in reality, this new one is the correct hose. A little bit of research turned up what this one is. This is the hose for the V8. This one here with that end there. This is the hose for the straight six. Why I had one with a A V8 hose on it, I don't know. I bought this vehicle in like 84 or 85 with 40,000 miles on it or something like that. So I doubt that hose had ever been replaced. I think that's the hose the factory put on it. And those of us who are familiar with AMC in those years, we know that AMC kind of used whatever they had laying around. So I suspect they had a surplus of V8 hoses and just put them on everything. So I'm going to go ahead and stick with the correct hose. And should fit. I mean, it's meant for that vehicle and that engine. Other thing worthy of note is the pulleys on these. This pump, somewhere in the mid-70s, I think, they went from a bolt-on pulley to a press-on pulley. The bolt-on pulleys usually are a 3-spoke pulley, and there's a big nut on the front. You take the nut off, you tap it a few times with a mallet, and they usually come right off. These press-on ones, I have had them come off pretty easy with a puller, and I have had them had to go into a pretty good-sized press with a fixture to get off. A number of years ago, I made a tool to get these off. A number of years ago. We're talking probably 30 friggin' years ago, because I have not done one of these in probably 20 years. I made a tool out of a socket and a big washer, and I thought I knew where it was, but I can't find it for anything, so I got a couple choices. First, I can buy another set of tools, which is what's in that red box. I could take it over to the press and put it on the press, but to put it in the press, I'd have to build a fixture. I just don't want to spend my time doing that. So I bought another set of tools. Now, you can buy these down at Harbor Freight really easily, and somebody told me somewhere along the line recently that if you buy the replacement pump from from O'Reilly's or Napa, and you take your core in with you, they'll swap the pulley for you for free in there. I don't know if that's true or not, but hey, if I didn't have a shop to work in and I didn't have tools or didn't want to buy the tool, I'd probably buy the pump with the reservoir on it, buy a reman with the reservoir on it, take this all in with me, and just let them swap it and go home. So, but I didn't do that. I bought this set of tools. I bought this off eBay for like 18 or 19 bucks. The tool can be kind of fiddly to get on. This 2-piece part wraps around there. One goes around the hub on the pump. There's a indented ring in it that it fits into. And then this part with the threaded shaft, it fits in the other side of that part, and you kind of tighten it down and it's snug. And then you put the ring over it to keep the whole thing from blowing up in your face. And then I should be able to take an impact and buzz that right off of there. Let's try it and see if it works. What's the worst thing that can happen? Coming off of there, but dang, this one is tight. All right, there it is. Okay, with the pulley and the bracket off of it, we are going to separate the reservoir. That's these two studs. One of the interesting things about working on American vehicles of around 1980, late 70s, early 80s era, is they'll have a mix of metric and US fasteners on them, or metric and imperial if you prefer. Sometimes even on the same thing, like this pump and brackets unit, it has both metric and US on it. So you kind of got to be careful of them, because it'll screw you if you give it a chance. So just be careful of it. I have to get a different socket or an adapter. Let's see if we have a better option here. Let's see if this one will work. And oftentimes when Japanese cars will use 17 millimeters, American cars will use 16 or 18. And it's just like, you know, we make fun of the fact that nothing in any life ever, in any manufacturer, ever used a 9 millimeter, but I wouldn't put it past one of them to do that. Hey, we're going to pop these out, and then the pump should come out of the Well, that won't come out of there now. Okay. It's always something, isn't it? There we go. Also, I'm trying to remember if there's anything that will, any springs that will come flying out any place in these. So you might just want to keep in mind that there might be some springs. All right, the pump should come out of the housing now. It says here, how much fun is it going to be to get it out? I don't know. What I might be able to do is thread these back in just a little bit. The one, there it is. And I might just be able to tap on those with the brass mallet just to kind of knock that pump out of there. Okay, I'm sure many of you watching this saw the mistake I was making. I was trying to pull the pump out of the reservoir and I had not taken this out. So I deformed the reservoir pretty bad, but thanks to a couple hammers and a nice big brass punch, I deformed it right back again. And yeah, it is what it is. We all make mistakes. That was mine for the day. Let's see if that will be the last one. Now that the pump is out, we have a seal around the outside. We have a seal in under here, and we have one, and there's going to be, I think there's like 7 or 8 seals in this. All right, I want to get that reservoir and the other parts clean, so I'm going to start with the reservoir. I've got it in a gallon freezer bag filled with hot water and Dawn dish soap. We're going to give it 30 minutes, and we are going to go. Okay, now that the pump is out of the reservoir and I've repaired the damage I've done to the reservoir, I've got it in the ultrasonic cleaner, which is probably preventing you from hearing me. We need to get this spring clip in here. There is a spring clip in here with a round profile. We need to get that out of there. And there's a hole right here that you can put a small pin in it, punch in or something to push it out. You just want to rotate it around, and it rotates pretty easy so that the one end of it is near that hole. And then you just take a small punch like the one you probably just used to rotate it, and you whack it, and that pops that out of there. Put your hand in there because it's spring loaded. There we go. And eye protection, of course, is mandatory if you like your eyes. And then that comes out like that. And there's a spring that goes in there in that orientation, fat end toward the inside. And now we can see the pump in there itself. And there's an O-ring right in here, of course. So now we're just going to slide that pump out of there. So I'm just going to try and grab this piece of needle nose pliers and see if it'll just slide out of there. And it does. Look at that. So this is the side that faces out. This is the side that faces in. It looks pretty much the same on either side. It's symmetrical, so you could probably put it in like this and it would be the same. Anyway, I'm going to set that down the way it came out. And now there's a couple pins in it you can pull out to remove. They just line it up. Now notice inside there are veins in there. You don't want to lose those veins. They also, most of the ones I've seen are curved on one side and square on the other. And the curved side should go out. So I'm just going to flip it over and hope it all comes out nice. And it didn't, it didn't. Okay, there's our main piece that came out. Here's some of the little veins. There's another one of the little veins. And here's the thing the vein sits in. It's held in with a, looks like it has a clip on it. I don't remember that part of it. Does this whole thing come out now? Let's try it. Let's get the hammer and tap on that. I think that whole thing comes out now. I'm just going to tap on the end of this with the brass hammer and see if that comes out. It does. There we go. It comes right out. I may have to get a socket to put in there, probably will. Here's something right here, see if that'll knock it the rest of the way through. Alright, so there is our main shaft with the interior piece of the pump and the part that holds the vanes. Some people hate these and will not use them. I have been using them my whole life, and I don't think I've ever had one cause a problem. There we go. All right. There is our seal out of there. Okay, now that everything is cleaned up as good as I need it to be, I'm going to start putting it back together. I've got my seal kit out. I'm going to start with this end seal. And as I mentioned, I am going to be putting RTV on it because I really don't want it to leak. And I have a little bit of power steering fluid, otherwise known as Dexron ATF, to help assemble it. Where's the cap? What does the cap say? The cap says fill to proper level, use approved fluid. Well, I approve of ATF for this. So that's what I'm going to be using. I'm going to take my end seal and I'm just going to put a little bit of ultra black around it. I'm just going to kind of get it started evenly with this method to drive it down until it's flush. All right, there are two seals that go inside here. And there are two grooves they go in, and not to be mistaken for the other grooves that are in it that get other things besides seals. Not sure how I can demonstrate that. Not sure I remember which ones they are myself, although the very outer one this way gets the snap ring. So it is the two below that, and there are other kind of grooves in it, but there are only two other big enough for seals. So once again, we're just going to put a little bit of lubricant on them, and we're going to get them down in there. And these can be a little fiddly to get in. And if you wonder how I'm telling the old ones from the new ones, because I didn't separate them very far apart, it's because the new ones I can do that with and they don't snap in half. Guaranteed way to tell. All right, so that's all the seals on the inside. So next thing we're going to do, we're going to put this piece back in, and this piece goes down there. Does that get a seal on it there? No, it couldn't possibly get a seal on it. And there's obviously only one way this can go in. I would recommend you do it without the vanes on it. So we're just going to put that in first. And that should require a little bit of excess force to get in. Although I'm going to go lightly on the excess force today, because I've been doing that lately and it hasn't always worked out really well for me. So I think I'm actually going to go to a plastic hammer instead of the brass one I was using. And we'll just see if we can't tap that in place. Shouldn't take much. Okay, there we go. We appear to be flush. Uh-oh, now I can't move the part around on the bottom, so I think I need to back out a little bit. So let's back it out just enough that I can swing that plate around so I can line the line-up pins up. That's it right there. Now I can move that bottom plate around freely, and I can put my pins in. All right, so our line-up pins are in. I should be able to tap that the rest of the way down. There we go. Now the next thing that we want to put in is we want to put in this plate. And we can do the plate or the vanes. Honestly, I can't remember how I did it last time. they're going to be easier. And now this has, I can't remember whether these have a specific orientation or not. It came out with these cuts here facing the back of the pump away from the shaft. So I don't think this thing's been apart before. Obviously, I have tried to seal those studs up in the back in days gone by, but I don't think the actual pump has been apart. So I'm going to assume that that was assembled correctly. And we'll go ahead and put it back in that same way. Now this has two sets of holes. Only one set fits over the lineup pins. And I believe it is the small. Is it the smaller or the larger? It's the smaller. There we go. So now that's back in. And now we're going to put the vanes back in. Now the vanes, you kind of got to watch out for, because the vanes do have an orientation, and it's pretty damn subtle. And I suspect it does make a difference. So let me get one of them out and see if I can show you. There is a flat side on these, and I'm sure the camera's not going to show it. I'm sure I can't get my hand in, but there is a flat side here and a rounded side. And I can't even see it with these glasses on, so I'm going to have to get a better pair of glasses. The rounder side goes toward the outside. And this one may just have enough wear on it, there is no difference anymore. I'm not sure I can even tell the difference. Okay, I got a more powerful pair of reading glasses, and I got to tell you, if there was a flat side and a round side to these at one point, there isn't now. They're both rounded. I can't tell the difference, so I'm going to go ahead and put a little extra fluid in on top of where they go, and I'm going to put it all back together as best I can. If you hold it up to the light and you rock it around like that, you can see that one side of the curve definitely is smoother than the other. And one side does look rounded, and the other side looks like it was squared, then had the edges of the square pounded down. So there they are, they're all back in place. Now the back of the pump goes on. This part goes on, and it lines up, and it obviously this goes out this way, I think. Should be right. Let me double check. Okay, I was wrong. I'm glad I checked. It does not go like this. It goes like this. And then the dowels go in the smaller of these two slots. So when it looks like it should have a dowel in it. So I'm just going to put a little bit of lube on all of this because I can. And then we're going to slide it back in. And we are going to try and get it right. And did I? I did. Okay, so that's how that should go. Hope that's appearing. And now after that, our spring goes in, and the spring should fit in that groove. You can see it there. The big side goes in and fits in that groove, and then the cap goes on. And the cap goes like that. You press it down, and then that O-ring goes in. And that'll be fun to do. Might want to put a clamp on it or something. Here's our ring. Let's see if I can get this in with my fingers and don't have to get a clamp. So I'm going to try and get it down low enough that I can get one end started in. Yeah, there we go. That should work. Except I can't get it around my thumb now. Okay, I didn't think that through, did I? Okay, there we go. We're going to get that in there. You know what? I might break down and get a clamp. I don't want to deform that. That doesn't want to go down for me. There we go. Now it went down. And now I pop back completely back out again. Boy, it would be nice if that clamp would stay on there without me needing to hold it. Let's see. Yeah, this is like a bomb waiting to go off. There we go. I got it. Ah, perfect timing. Oh yeah, it turns easily. Okay, that's good. They give you a bunch of seals with this that I don't know where they go, to be quite honest with you. They did not come out of this pump, so I'm not sure where they go. They might be for, you know, to cover bunches of different years. And that's pretty common, so they only have to make one seal kit. And then they just charge us for the ones we're not going to use, which is also really common when you do this kind of stuff. But it's still way cheaper than buying the pump. Okay, there's our outer ring. Now you're probably going to ask, Chuck, if you're going to put silicone on it, why did you grease it? And that's a damn good question. We have 3 there. So let's get those out. And these have a square profile. Those obviously fit in there. These just seal the pump shaft, the bolts from the pump and this shuttle valve here into the against the reservoir. This one ain't going anywhere, and that kind of worries me. I don't remember seeing another seal in there like that, so I don't know what the hell's going on with that, and I'm not going to worry about it because I don't think it went in there. Or if it did, oh, did it go around? Oh, I see. One of them goes around here. Scared myself for a minute there. Let's get the dental pick and get that. There we go. All right, so that one's on. So that only leaves me with a couple of weird extras, and I'm guessing they're for a slightly different pump. So there's 3 extras that look like they line up here, but I think they're for a different pump. And see, these are the 3 that I want here. And yes, they both all stick up about the same amount. I'm gonna glue the piss out of them because I can. And then I have these 3 extra that are just thicker. Just for sport and amusement, I thought I would test fit this in. I took the big ring seal off of the outside of the pump, and I just thought I would test fit this, and wow. I know I deformed it to some extent, and I mean, the seal is in, so it should not leak, but that is not what I would call confidence inspiring. It's almost enough to make me want to buy another reservoir. I'm certainly going to put the fatter of the rubber seals in there, but geez, those holes don't even line up. How was this thing ever together? Okay, I have applied the proper amount of RTV to this, which is all of it, and we're going to put this back together. There we go. I'm going to have to rotate it a bit. Not that big of a deal. Got to try and line the holes up. I also want to try and clean the RTV out of this hole where the valve goes. The others I don't care about because they're just hold down bolts. But this one I would like to not have any more RTV in it than is absolutely necessary. More. All right, that's about as good as that's ever going to get. I'm trying to remember which one of these goes in which location, and I don't remember. I'm going to have to go back to an earlier video and see which one of these goes where. In the meantime, I can put them all in and tighten it down, and it shouldn't matter. Let's put this valve back in and together too. This valve went in there like that. Was there a spring on that? There was a spring on that. Don't forget the spring. There was a spring. I knew there was a spring in that. So, here is the spring that goes in that. Don't forget it. It needs to go in first like that. That should kind of be springy. And then this goes in on top of it. Yeah, I'm going to put RTV on it. And how much RTV am I going to put on it? The correct amount, which is a lot. Because I don't want this thing to leak. I'd almost rather it not work right than leak. And a lot of you are probably saying, well, Chuck, you're going to get your wish, buddy. That ain't going to work worth a shit. And I know what you're thinking. I know. Hey, slight change of plans. Those extra thick quad rings I put in, the 3 of those in, that wasn't working. I had to switch back to the thinner ones because this one here, these probably would have been okay, but this one here, it was just folding over on its side and it was preventing the valve from going in. So I went ahead and I put the others back in. I started these in. I've kind of got it lined up. I'm going to hope now that this starts without too big of a battle. I mean, we can always hope, right? These are things you'd know if you'd done this a bunch of times, which I have never. I've done it a few times in the past. Don't remember this much. I remember I thought it sucked, but I don't remember that I thought it sucked this bad. But maybe it did and I'm just not remembering. Okay, so that is tight-ish. I'll probably tighten that up a little more. I'm going to tighten these up. I'm still not sure if these are in the right locations or not. Before I tighten them too much, I'm going to go back and look at the previous video and see if I can tell. But I'm going to snug them up now just because I want to seat the reservoir down onto the pump. Okay, that's as far down as that's going to go. Let's see what we look like in the front. Well, that looks better than it did during my test fit. Also checked my video to make sure these were right, and they were not, so I swapped them. I mean, 50-50 chance. What's the odds of that, right? And we look pretty good around the front. And, you know, oh, I want to check to see if it still spins fairly easily. It does spin nice and easy. I can do it by hand now with these gloves on. And let's put the pulley back on and let's put it back in the vehicle. Okay, so let's see how big of a fuss or cluck getting the pulley back on is. I think I have my ducks in a row. My pulley is here. My pump is here. I've already got the press part from the puller threaded in. I have the other parts here. I'm just throwing shit all over the place, but that's okay. I'm going to apply a little heat to this because I think sometimes I've had them just go back on, but the way this job is going, I don't think this one will. But we're going to heat it up a bit anyway. Because why the hell not? All right, let's see if that helps it on. It fell right on. That's what I was hoping for, but I didn't think was going to work. It just, once I got it nice and hot, it just dropped right on without a fight. My gosh, that's the first thing that's gone without a fight in this whole job. So I think I am ready to put the pump back in. I got my canopy up to keep me out of the sun. I did go ahead and put casters on the bottom of it. I put these little Harbor Freight 2-inch casters on it because they would go right on without a problem, without me drilling or welding or anything like that. And I gotta tell you, it makes it a lot easier for one person to move this thing around. Even over ground like this, it's way, way better. I got the pump here. I put a quick paint job on it. I am 50% sure this pump will work and 50% sure it won't leak. So that means I'm 100% sure of it. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw it back in. Okay, the pump is back in place. That wasn't a big deal, of course. I didn't expect it to be. Let's get the lines in, and I'm starting to think it would have been easier to put, especially the pressure line on before I put the pump in. Of course, that would have made it more of a wrestling match, but also would have made it easier to see. Again, I'm putting this hose on. It's supposed to be the correct hose, although it's not the one that came out of it. The V8 hose came out of it. So this is the correct hose, so it should fit. Things worthy of note, you have to have an O-ring here. kit with O-rings should have come in with the hose. You want one O-ring there, you do not want two. So make extra sure that the old O-ring still isn't stuck in. I have not looked at the steering box yet, but I know that the one down here is not in there. So I'm going to put an O-ring on there and I'm going to get this thing put on. Well, the lines are on and it wasn't as big a deal getting. I was afraid these were going to be really fiddly to get started. But with everything kind of flopping loose, I managed to wiggle around pretty good. Again, make sure the old O-rings are out. Make sure the new O-rings are on. I have been told that the low pressure line on some of these boxes has a flare fitting instead of an O-ring. So make sure, take a look at your old one. Make sure the new one is correct. And the one closest to the end of the box, the one closest to the cabin, the driver's position, is the low pressure, and the one closest to the front of the vehicle is the high pressure. And yeah, that's it right there as far as the lines are concerned. And it is about, what is it? It's about 1:30, probably about 90, 92 degrees out. There's a time of the year when I start saying, you know what? 1 or 2 o'clock's a good time to stop for the day, even in the shade with the canopy. So it's the next day and I kind of got a bright idea. I mean, once every couple of years I do get one. I still don't have a bolt there. I wonder why. Anyway, probably broken off. Probably should have fixed that, but oh well. Anyway, one thing I want to do before I go any further and bolt that steering box up, I think I'm going to put fluid in it, start the engine up, while I can still easily see these lines under here and just check for leaks. I know I won't be able to, you know, steer the steering wheel back and forth, lock to lock, while the steering box is unbolted, but I think I can do a pretty good leak check. Poured about 2/3 of a quart in and I almost overfilled it. It is slowly bubbling down there and I am checking for leaks and I got nothing. I haven't started it up yet, but I got nothing pouring out anywhere, and it's slowly going down into the pump and maybe dribbling into some of the lines. There really isn't a lot place it can go as far as the lines are concerned. But it sounds kind of sad, but I consider this a win that it isn't just pouring out as fast as I poured it in. That's how I feel about this whole job. All right, let's start it up and see what happens. Okay, we are running. Fluid level has gone down quite a bit. Still see and feel no leaks. Like I said, I can't really turn the wheel around, and I don't see anything leaking out of here. I mean, that's a good sign, right? Okay, this ran long enough for the engine to drop off of high idle, and I'm not seeing a leak anywhere. I topped it back off, and yes, it's overfilled a bit again. But I suspect that will cure itself when we turn the wheel from side to side and really fill everything up. But there's not a drop leaking out of anywhere. We are completely dry on the bottom of the pump, dry at the lines. I'm not sure what I can get a feel around here where that might be leaking. Nothing there. Nothing where the pump goes into the reservoir. So I think it's sealed up. So I'm going to go ahead and put it all back together. Oh, and nothing down here at these lines. So I am pretty encouraged. Well, I gotta tell y'all, this job really sucked. The pump itself wouldn't have been that bad, but that steering box, that thing was a major pain in the tush to get back up in there. It would have been a sucky job in a shop on a rack with a buddy to help. But man, laying on your back trying to get all that to line up. Oh, jeez. Well, it's all back together. And it's doing pumpy power steering things. And it's not leaking, which shocks the living hell out of me. But I'm a happy camper, so I'm going to clean up. And I'm going to call it a day. Thanks for watching.